Hello there. Today on the Dusty Game Society, we're going to mix things up. I'm going to be doing my first interview video. Today we have Retro Game Corps on the show. Welcome. Yeah, the pleasure is mine. So first off, let's talk about how did you come up with the name Retro Game Corps? Yeah, it's an interesting name. It does make sense though now that I've met you. So let's start with your history, Retro Game Corps. What video game systems did you have when you were a kid? Oh, you brought something. You've got a Game Boy. Awesome. Can you maybe tell us about what are a few of your favorite Game Boy games? Yeah. You might want to be more careful with that Game Boy there, Retro Game Corps. It's, I mean, what am I doing telling you how to take care of a Game Boy, right? You're the expert after all. Let's talk about your channel. What made you finally take the plunge and start making videos? Do you have any upcoming devices that you're looking forward to checking out? Oh, are you going somewhere? Retro Game Corps? Is the interview done? Well, I'd like to thank Retro Game Corps for coming on the show. I hope you had fun and learned something. Make sure you subscribe to Retro Game Corps and check out his content. And that's it from me for today. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Dusty Game Society. We are a group of retro gaming enthusiasts who yearn for simpler times. Back when hitting up the Blockbuster to rent a game on Friday night was the only motivation to make it through the school week without getting grounded. This month, I wanted to pick a game for us to play for October, the month of spooky stuff. So we played a double feature of cult classic, action-packed horror B-movie arcade-style games that are sure to increase the spookiness in your life by a good, I don't know, 75% or something. I guess it depends on how spooky your life is. Like your baseline spookiness kind of thing. Anyways, dweebs and lady dweebs, the Dusty Game Society proudly presents Zombies Ate My Neighbors and the sequel Ghoul Patrol tossed in for funsies. Let me take you back to 1993. The world was simpler, our shirts were tucked in, our root beer was cheaper, and 11-year-old TechDweeb had a subscription to Nintendo Power. That's how we used to find out about new games back in the day, before the internet. Like most 11-year-old boys in the 90s, I was into anything that was gross. Boogers, barf, slime, guts, and anything with cartoon blood. I lived for that stuff. So when I saw the spread for Zombies Ate My Neighbors, I was instantly like, heck yeah. I need that in my life. And it would have been a while before I got to play it, but I did eventually rent it a few times, and I loved it back then, and I loved coming back to it this month. And Ghoul Patrol was pretty good too. We'll talk about that at the end. Zombies Ate My Neighbors is like every horror B-movie made into an arcade game. It came out on the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Today, if you want to play these games, you've got some options. There's Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol, which is a re-release on modern consoles and PC. And of course, you can emulate either the Super Nintendo versions or the Sega Genesis versions, although the general consensus is that the Super Nintendo version is the superior version. I played the Super Nintendo version in two ways. One was on this retro handheld, the RG476H. I love this thing. And the other way that I played was actually on my arcade cabinet that I made. I figured this game felt like an arcade game, so it would make sense to complete the vibe. And I'm so glad I did, because this was easily my favorite part of playing this game this month. I even suckered my little cousin into playing with me, and she loved it too. That was fun as heck. You play as Zeke and Julie, two rad teens armed with squirt guns, soda cans, and unrelenting 90s attitude. The world's been overrun by classic horror movie monsters like zombies and vampires, giant ants, mummies, chainsaw murderers, axe-wielding kids, and your job is to save your neighbors before they get eaten by zombies, like the title implies. There's no deep lore, no NPCs to talk to, just you, your buddy, hopefully, and a world full of monsters who want to eat you in the face. You know how most arcade-style run-and-gun games are like 6 to 8 levels long? Maybe 10 if they're feeling spicy? Zombies Ate My Neighbors laughs in your face with its 55 levels. 55! It's kind of like when you eat an entire family-sized bag of chips. You start off thinking, oh, I'll have just a few chips, and then suddenly you're halfway through the whole bag. But you can't stop. This was actually a selling feature back in the day though. Back then it wasn't common for an action game to have enough content that it would last you more than a day or two. So the value of getting a game that had more game in it, that's the kind of thing that would sell games. They were so proud of this that they put it right on the front of the frickin' box. This is a top-down run-and-gun with a twin-stick feel, except you only have one stick because it's the Super Nintendo. You explore levels that are actually quite varied. Some of them are open, some of them are tight, some of them are maze-like. Every level starts the same. You drop in, check your radar, and run like your life depends on it, because it does. You'll be collecting lots of keys, opening up lots of doors, dodging enemies, and hunting down every last neighbor before they're eaten. It's frantic and a little bit stressful, like a race against time in your health bar. You feel like you want to get in and save these doomed souls and get out before you soak up too many werewolf maulings. The controls are tight, but the screen is a little cramped. It's hard to tell how to get places, and you'll lose neighbors because you didn't know a zombie was waiting just off screen. I think as long as you don't care too much about doing well in the game, that's not a problem. But it's a bit frustrating when the neighbors get eaten right in front of you and there was literally nothing you could have done to stop it. There's no save points in the game, however, there is a password system. If you're playing on emulation, that's not a problem though. You can just use save states. And if you use the game rebalancing options, as we in the Dusty Game Society call cheats, you can jump ahead to whatever level you want, or otherwise just tweak the experience to maximize fun and avoid rage quitting. I did a bit of that stuff, not gonna lie, and I would do it again. And I will, but probably every time I play this. Like I said, I played some of this co-op with my cousin, and that was easily like twice as fun as going through solo. This game shines in co-op. Not because it gets easier, it doesn't, but I found it funner just because suffering with a friend is better than suffering alone. It's kind of like how watching a bad horror movie is better when someone else is groaning along with you. The weapon selection is one of the things about the game that changes things up significantly. Your default squirt gun is charming and surprisingly effective, but the real fun comes from the weird arsenal. You got soda can grenades, which are pretty good, but they're hard to use. Bazookas, which are amazing but scarce. They can blast through some of the walls. A weed whacker that is easily my favorite weapon in the game, and a whole bunch of weird things like popsicles and silverware, plates, inflatable clowns, potions that might harm you or turn you into a monster. You don't know, it's random. It's a gamble. Just like life if you think about it. But I'm not going to get deep into the philosophy of Zombies Ate My Neighbors. It's just too deep for a video like this. I really liked the variety in the levels. The settings are pretty varied, from Egyptian tombs to haunted castles, football fields, shopping malls, neighborhoods, gardens, mazes, and there's lots of variety in the visuals and the layouts. The radar tells you where the neighbors are, but it doesn't show walls, so you're going to spend a lot of time running into fences or searching for the one key that you missed, or standing in front of a hedge going, I know the baby is right there. I can hear it crying. How can I get through to save the baby? Oh wait, it's dead. That's always frustrating when the neighbors die just before you get to them. The game escalates slowly. You'll be battling zombies for a long time before new enemies show up. Eventually, you get some weird boss fights like this giant baby, but they're spaced out. I kinda hated the bosses because they're hard and a bit unfair, but there's not many of them. Some levels are just filler, some are long, some are super short. It's a wild pacing roller coaster. A horror roller coaster. That is hard to say, man. Wow. A horror roller coaster. I'll see myself out. This game looks amazing. Super Nintendo era pixel art at its finest. Just pure Saturday morning cartoon chaos. You got big bold sprites, colorful environments, and expressive character designs. Zeke's glasses are too cool for school. The zombies lurch around with a gross but kinda cute charm. The cheerleaders look, confused. Always. Like they're wondering why they're in this game. It's got that early 90s pixel art that wasn't trying to be timeless, but it totally ended up that way. And the sound is pretty good. Bouncy, spooky soundtracks that do well to set the mood. The sound effects are great too, if a bit repetitive. Squishes and zaps and chainsaw buzzes, it all works as you'd want it to. Look, I love this game, but it also makes me want to throw my handheld across the room sometimes. The pacing is the main problem, I think. Early levels are slow and easy, mid-game gets repetitive, and late game is brutally hard. It doesn't ramp up so much as it lulls you into a false sense of security and then drops a werewolf tornado on your face. And like I said, I hated the bosses, especially how for lots of them it feels like you're expected to have the right weapon at the right time or you're toast. Like, I wish I knew I needed to budget those soda grenades I wasted 3 levels ago. However, cheats and save states were made for this game, and it basically eliminates most of my frustrations. You'll want infinite lives, you'll want level selects to get back to where your previous journey ended, maybe some extra weapons or even invincibility to get through some particularly tough levels. This game isn't balanced and fair, so don't feel guilty. Do whatever you need to do to enjoy the game and have fun. No judgment in the Dusty Game Society. And now we have a bonus mini review for Ghoul Patrol, the sequel that no one asked for. And this one's, weird. It looks like Zombies Ate My Neighbors. It sorta plays like it, but something's off. Not in a terrible way. I still had lots of fun personally, but it's a bit weird coming to this directly from Zombies Ate My Neighbors. They actually tried to have a story here. There's something about a haunted book, time travel, and ghosts. Julie and Zeke return, but their animations are like, clunkier, I guess? Like you're running through mud all the time. It's technically more advanced in a few areas, but it lost that chaotic spark a bit. It just kind of feels like a school project turned in late. Not bad, just weirdly lifeless, which I guess sort of fits considering it's a game full of undead things. It's shorter, which may be a good or bad thing depending on how you like these things. Still, I did have fun with it, and if nothing else, it's worth playing for curiosity's sake. As a duo, Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol are a blast from the past, perfect to play in a spooky retro game marathon on Halloween, because they really do capture the vibe of cheesy 90s horror for kids. Zombies is better, but they're both still fun, both totally worth playing, especially with a friend on the couch, some root beer in hand, and a TechDweeb video playing in the background, of course. But that's just one dweeb's opinion, and the Dusty Game Society isn't a one dweeb show. So let's hear what the other DGS members had to say about Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol, shall we? Starting with, fittingly, the Lord of Darkness himself, Strahd von Zarovich, the Vampire King of Barovia, and oh man, I freaking love this review. Strahd really likes zombies. The weapons, the monsters, the corny charm. Didn't like Ghoul Patrol as much though. Felt like it was mediocre compared to zombies, which it seems like is pretty much how everybody felt about it, I think. The one and only Emery from the one and only Dice Tower has added this to his lunch hour game rotation. Says calling it a great game is a bit overkill, but it's definitely not bad. Solid 7 out of 10 and worth a play. Space Case 90 liked the art, the soundtrack, and the B-movie vibes, but didn't like how the difficulty spikes halted your progression. Papapa Potato wasn't feeling this game. Found the gameplay confusing, the weapon switching clunky, and the level design straight up rude. They appreciated the cartoon vibe, but said it felt more Scooby-Doo than spooky, and ultimately gave it a solid meh. Banth was hit with a nostalgia bazooka. They loved the music, the monster memories, and especially playing co-op with his wife. Smart move. Still a big fan of zombies, but found Ghoul Patrol too stiff and bland by comparison. Monkey484 finally checked this one off the rental shelf bucket list and had a blast. They loved the funky weapons, catchy tunes, and goofy art, even if the challenge smacked them down by level 5. The Shibushi had a blast with zombies, praising the monster variety, weapons, and locations for keeping things fun and fresh despite the challenge. But Ghoul Patrol slid right off their good side. They chalked up the quality drop to outsourcing, calling it the transmorphers of the zombie world. Jongjungbu had a blast running and gunning through zombies all the way to the end, with some game rebalancing options. Ghoul Patrol, on the other hand, lost the magic somewhere between all the backtracking and missing fun. Zoim had some fun getting stomped by level 4, but once the Retroid Pocket arrived, Zombies was quickly ghosted in favor of Ratchet and Clank. Plastic Nowhere Man used to think Zombies was a snooze fest, until they pushed past the mall level, and was wowed by the chaos. They loved the weapon variety, the creepy enemies, and that classic nostalgic LucasArts flavored suburban horror vibe. Daftless grew up with Zombies, vibed hard with its 90s aesthetic, and still hums the soundtrack decades later. Total nostalgia fueled 10 out of 10. Zensible dug the full-on 90s vibe, the art, sound, difficulty and all, but felt the game's janky difficulty spikes, aggressive RNG, and bloated level count made it feel a bit dated. It's still a nostalgic blast worth playing, but a modern remake with tighter design and rebalancing could really elevate it. Alex Health is fresh to the DGS. Welcome, my friend. They jumped in late but still had a great time discovering zombies and plans to keep playing. Called it a gem, even without finishing it yet. Dad with a Deck had a blast with zombies, calling it a cozy zombie shooter packed with B-movie charm and chaotic fun, even if the final stretch wore him down. He gave the Mega Drive version a nostalgic thumbs up, but Ghoul Patrol didn't click, found it clunky, unbalanced, and missing the goofy charm that made zombies special. Lunar Hades had fun early on, but she tapped out once the Chainsaw Maniacs showed up. Zombies was much better back in the day with a co-op buddy, and this solo revisit just didn't hit the same. This is Wadani's first month with the DGS and gave zombies a fair shot on their Zazbizzle, but the maze level and helpless neighbor deaths soured the fun. Might return to it later with a better mood and more snacks. Ghoul Patrol didn't fare as well, feeling like a limp sequel with worse controls and none of the charm. Abandoned by level 2. I would like to personally thank all the Dusty Game Society members who took part this month. I had a great time playing this with you fine dweebs. And of course, thank you for your support. You guys are awesome. It's because of you that I can do this. So yeah, thank you. The Dusty Game Society is a perk that I offer to the patrons of TechDweeb. Each month I pick a game for us to play, we play it, talk about it all month long like a bunch of schoolyard kids, and at the end of the month I collect everyone's mini reviews for videos like this. If you'd like to support this channel and join the DGS as a side perk, there's a link in the thingy below. But regardless of whether you throw money at a stranger on the internet, I hope you'll turn down the lights, bust out the 3D glasses, and smash some purple-blooded monsters in Zombies Ate My Neighbors. And if you do, then leave your mini review for this cult classic in the comments below. You never know, once the zombies arrive, it might be all that's left of you when they're done picking your bones clean. And with that happy thought, thanks for watching and stay dusty, my friend.